Millions of Americans see their monthly benefit check increase, everybody. It's happening now. Households with low income will be able to claim extra relief money starting this month. Lawmakers have approved new legislation that would allocate billions of dollars towards new crisis relief assistance programs. The Department of Children and Families also announced that the Florida application for Disaster SNAP program has been approved. The program will provide assistance to food families and individuals affected by the hurricane who are not already receiving food assistance benefits through the programs. It's going to help so many people out now, everybody, and this is really great because state officials have said the program will be implemented by phases and by each county starting Monday, October 10th. So it's going to be helping so many people this week and this month with stimulus payments. People get the help they need. The Secretary of the State told reporters that our department is working around the clock to provide critical resources to families that are impacted by this, and our goal is to provide families with support as quickly as possible. And more than 500,000 Massachusetts households will actually start receiving the food assistance and can get a boost this month from the starting of the Keeping High with Inflation. Now, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker has actually announced that 550,000 households will participate in the SNAP's program, and will see an increase starting in the October 22 benefits. And those receiving SNAP benefits will get a 12% increase, with households seeing an average monthly boost of $25 to $30. The federal government adjusts SNAP benefit payments yearly to keep up with inflation, and Baker's office said that this recent increase reflects Massachusetts residents and the cost of living and fight hunger and food insecurity across the state. The Department of Transitional Assistance Acting Commissioner said in a press release that SNAP is a critical tool in providing individuals and families with the financial power to buy the food they need. It also plays an important role as an economic stabilizer, providing an influx of federal dollars into the state's economy, supporting our grocery stores, corner stores, and local farms. Utility costs for Massachusetts has also influenced SNAP benefits. Over the summer, the state got an approval from the federal government to adjust the heating costs used to determine the new benefit amount, reflecting the regional rise in utility bills. The administration says it hopes to have a continued SNAP emergency allotment and free school meals for all residents and students this year. In Hawaii's minimum wage actually increased to $12 an hour. The increase will mean an average of about $300 more per month for workers at that wage, but it could also impact their ability to collect food SNAP benefits. The SNAP program is based on gross monthly income, and Joseph Campos, the deputy director for the state, has said that the state will help those on the cusp of losing their benefits when the time comes for the review. He added that the federal government will use the offset wage increase when they up the requirement for those receiving food stamp benefits. The higher income rules jumped 12.5% because of skyrocketing inflation, and that could actually protect most people's benefits. Currently, there are 160,000 Hawaii residents enrolled in the program, and New Mexico is also issuing a fourth stimulus check worth at least $400 to help the qualified low-income households. During its 2022 legislative session, the state allocated $10 million for economic aid to help low-income residents. And so while most state recipients will be receiving their payments via direct deposit, you can also get it via paper check, so be on the lookout for that.
Net interest income?
Well, I think it's hard to tell, right? You know, the Fed's on a path to continue to increase rates. At least that's what it appears to be doing. And the market's pricing in a number of incremental rates from here. So that will certainly help. You know, we'll continue to have to pass some of that along to customers through deposit pricing. And, you know, we'll see how loan growth progresses for the rest of the year. But we're in an environment now where we're benefiting from higher rates as we thought we would coming into this, you know, given our positioning that we've done over the last couple of years.
You mentioned deposit pricing, and I wanted to hit that too, because I know that investors are really paying attention to the outflows right now happening in deposits. Your costs were less than some of your competitors that reported today. First, I'm wondering why is that, and just how competitive you think that's going to get, the pressure to raise those prices.
Well, we certainly have different mixes of businesses, so that's probably part of, you know, some of the differences you see across the peer set. You know, but for us, you know, as we've said for a while now, as rates continue to rise, you're going to see deposit prices go up, and as they rise from here, those prices will go up a bit faster than you've seen so far. You know, it'll happen most in our corporate investment bank, where those are the most price-sensitive deposits. We're also seeing that pressure in our wealth and investment management business, and a lesser degree on the core consumer side. But from here, as rates go up, you're going to see pricing definitely go up.
And you mentioned loans. also growing, and we saw that across banks, although your loan growth was a little bit below consensus and quarter to quarter was flat. Why is that, and is that the end of loan growth?
Well, we thought coming into this quarter that the growth rates were going to moderate quite a bit. What we saw in the first half of the year was that really strong growth, coming out of the first quarter and into the second quarter. And we knew that just wasn't going to sustain itself across the book. But underneath that, you're seeing our credit card portfolio continue to grow. You're seeing the home lending first lien mortgages continue to grow. A little bit offset by our auto portfolio, and then you're seeing some, good stable loan balances across the other businesses. Our commercial bank continues to grow, and it's offset a little bit by what's happening in the corporate investment bank. But overall, we're about where we expected based on what we were seeing earlier in the quarter, coming out of the second quarter. And then from here, I think it's going to be, dependent upon what happens in the overall economy. And I think, we're not past, the utilization rates in our commercial businesses aren't past where they were in the, pre-COVID. So I think there's still some opportunity to grow here, but I think a lot of it will be dependent upon what happens in the environment.
Are you guys expecting a recession anytime soon?
Well, I leave the the projections of whether we're going to hit a recession or not, to others. But I think from what we're seeing so far, you're going to see some slowing growth as rates rise. But so far, consumers are doing really well.
And as the Federal Reserve raises interest rates to tame inflation, it is running at its fastest pace in more than 40 years. Carrying a balance a month after month will soon even cost more money than it does now. Since most credit cards have a variable rate, there's the direct connection to the Fed's benchmark. As the federal rate rises, the prime rate does as well, and credit card rates follow suit. Annual percentage rates are currently 16% on average. Folks, I want to know your thoughts on this. Is President Biden doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus payment, or do you believe he needs to do a better job on this? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. So guys, we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check that I want you to know. Continue watching this video because you definitely don't want to miss out on this. The Labor Department has released a shocking announcement. The Biden administration is working with state governments to approve a new round of stimulus checks, and that's the news that we want to hear. Economists are pushing for at least $1,000 relief payments. President Biden has released a new announcement today. During a news conference, Biden said that the United States has never seen anything like Putin's tax on both food and gas. His remarks come after the Labor Department announced Friday that inflation has hit a new 4-decade high in May. The Labor Department said that CPI index, the consumer price index that is, a broad measure of the price of everyday goods, includes gas, groceries, and rent, it rose 8.6% in May from a year ago. Prices have jumped 1% in the 1-month period from April, and those figures are both higher than the 8.3% headline figure and 0.7 monthly gain forecast. It marks the fastest pace of inflation since December of 1981. The president said fighting inflation is his top economic priority, and Biden also said America can tackle inflation from a position of strength unlike any other country in the world, adding that every other country in the world is getting a big bite and a piece of inflation. Biden administration officials have called for lowering prescription costs, which he said would fundamentally affect the well-being of every family. The Labor Department said that price increases were widely spread. Energy prices rose 3.9% in May from a previous month, and were up 3.4% from last year. Gas on average costs $48, 48% higher than it did a year ago. In all, fuel prices jumped 17% in May on a monthly basis, pushing the 1-year increase to a stunning 100%. In another worrisome sign, the shelter costs accelerated in May. It marked the fastest 1-month gain since 2004. On an annual basis, shelter costs have climbed 5.5%, the fastest since February 1991. Scorching hot inflation has created several financial pressures for most U.S. households, which are forced to pay more everyday necessities like food, gas, and rent. The burden is disproportionately borne by low-income Americans, which already stretched paychecks are heavily impacted by price fluctuations. Rising prices are eating away the strong wage gains that American workers have seen in recent months. The real average hourly earnings decreased by 0.6% in May from the previous month, as the inflation increase eroded from the 0.3% total wage gain. On an annual basis, real earnings actually dropped 3% in May. Rampant inflation has become a major political liability for Biden ahead of the midterm elections, in which Democrats are expected to lose their already thin majorities.
Gentleman from California.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentlelady from Michigan. I rise in support of Recovering America's Wildlife Act. This is a proactive piece of bipartisan legislation that would help our state and tribal fish and wildlife agencies with the recovery and conservation of close to 12,000 species of fish, wildlife, and plants. Now, I support this bill not only as a United States Representative for the Central Coast of California, a district that values and cherishes our wildlife, but also as the Vice Chair of the Congressional Sportsman Caucus, as some of the most passionate wildlife conservationists across our country. Many sportsmen and women, including those in the Congressional Sportsman Foundation, no matter what their political persuasion, support this critical piece of legislation. In addition to enhancing the Pittman-Robertson and Dingell-Johnson Acts, sportsmen and women want to ensure that our species are protected and perpetuated. From bighorn sheep to the Sierra Nevada red fox, from the California condors to the coho salmon, and from moose to monarch butterflies, the intent of this legislation is to protect those and thousands of other iconic animals well before they need to be listed as endangered or threatened. This way, rather than impose burdensome and costly regulations on fish and wildlife managers, sportsmen and women, and private businesses, those species can be recovered and renewed well before any measures are mandated. Look, it's estimated that it costs the federal government more than $19 million on average to recover a single species once it is.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the Biden administration abandoning tariffs on imported solar companies.